So everybody's been looking for utility in crypto. How can it be used? What are some of the key functions of how Web3 and crypto will be used in both retail aspects, but also in the real world? We'll dive into all that stuff today. Starbucks is in the news. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. Let's get into it today because obviously there is a lot happening around Polygon. As you guys know, we've talked about Polygon and their integration into a lot of different functions within real world or in real life aspects, and it's going to be no different today. We'll break down a little bit around what Starbucks is doing with Polygon, how this could affect the entire retail sector, and diving into all that. Before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor. That, of course, is Gala Games. Listen, if you guys are in Web3, if you're looking at doing anything in the gaming ecosystem within Web3 and within the metaverse, Gala is your first stop. Make sure and visit their website. Just go to app.gala.games. You'll see a ton there in terms of the kind of games that they're offering, but also some of the games maybe you can start engaging in. One of the games that they're recently launching is one that I think you guys will really like, and it's a game called Superior. Superior, if you have not had a chance, take a look at it because it's got some pretty intriguing aspects to it. And again, maybe this is your first time getting into gaming, especially in blockchain, or maybe you're just starting to explore it, or maybe you're looking at Gala as a whole, just as a token investment. Either way, this is the first place that you want to stop, and that is over on Gala Games' website. Make sure and click the link below. It is a way to help the channel out, and of course, we thank them for their sponsorship. All right, let's get into it a little bit around Starbucks and what was really in the news today. A lot of this is pertinent, I think, to what's happening in business as a whole, and this is something you've heard me talk about on this channel a lot, and that is the ability for real-world businesses to use some sort of the blockchain in real-world applications, and then, of course, leverage that into metaverse, maybe Web3 applications. Starbucks has taken a really good first step in that direction. Cutting to the story right here on CoinDesk, Starbucks to offer an NFT-based loyalty program using Polygon's blockchain technology. And again, this goes back to things I've talked about many times here on the channel before, is that loyalty-based systems will most likely be the killer app for blockchain usage for retail. And there's many reasons why, but one, validation, the ability to track and be accurate, the fact that it is immutable, all those kind of functions that you need within a loyalty system, which are actually pretty difficult to maintain and deploy, I think starts to bring some very interesting advantages to the retail sector. And let me kind of break down a little bit of what Starbucks is doing. I'll zoom in on this one right here. Program is built to be built on Polygon's proof of stake network scaling tool. It sits obviously on top of Ethereum. Applications that run Polygon and other scalers to avoid some of the high cost, low transactions. You guys know, most of you guys know what Polygon does. Starbucks has hinted at developing a Web3 experience in May. This was back a few months ago when it announced plans to launch a series of NFT collections providing unique experiences, community building, and customer engagement. Now, what does all this mean really for what they're doing? It really boils down to one thing, and it's a new program they call Starbucks Odyssey. Now, Odyssey is a bridge that essentially will enable real-world activities, meaning something you're doing within the store, on digital applications within their app, that will start to give you a very unique entry into the Web3 ecosphere. And what that means for crypto, I think, is a big thing because it's going to expose a ton of people to crypto and Web3, maybe for the very first time. If you look further into their own blog post, a little bit about what they're doing here, Starbucks is gonna, of course, today unveiled their Starbucks Odyssey. It's a new experience powered by Web3 tech. This, of course, is Polygon that will offer Starbucks Rewards members and partners employees in the US right now that will unlock and access to new benefits and, of course, immersive coffee experiences. So this is kind of like their loyalty program that they have currently. And it's not one that you would say, hey, well, is this really gonna have any real effect on what Starbucks is doing? Yes, it will. And there's many reasons why. I'll point out some of those. For the first time, we're connecting our Starbucks Rewards loyalty program members, not to just Starbucks, but now to each other. And again, this is one of the things that Metaverse and potentially Web3 can really bring out. They're gonna leverage Web3 tech, will allow the members to access experiences and ownership that was not possible before, And Starbucks, of course, will transcend the foundational benefits that our Starbucks reward members have come to love: unlock digital physical, which is the phygital aspect, and experiential benefits that are uniquely Starbucks. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about what they're going to do here, in essence of really outlining the actual programs themselves, and also some of the value points that this may represent to the Starbucks users, and why this could be a big win for Metaverse, Web3 tech, especially Polygon, and maybe a handful of other projects out there that are starting to go in this direction, because I do think loyalty will be a big part of this. Further into their article, it says Starbucks Odyssey will be an extension of the industry-leading Starbucks reward program. Members can access their rewards login credentials. Once they're logged in, members can exchange or engage in Starbucks Odyssey journeys, a series of activities, playing interactive games, which of course will introduce them into Web3 and Metaverse, and then be rewarded for completing journeys. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Also can purchase limited edition stamps, NFTs, through the built-in marketplace within the Odyssey web app experience. So again, getting into, I think, an overarching theme here with what Starbucks is doing. And I understand that some of you guys might say, well, wait a minute, Paul, that looks like and sounds like it's a little bit more of a closed ecosystem, when Web3 is really designed to be an open ecosystem. I think this is just the beginning. I think what Starbucks will have to do is, one, start to understand really what this means and be able to bridge the gap into an open Web3 system that I think will start to change the dynamic of how Starbucks collectibles and also loyalty could be utilized across some interesting ways, because there could be some additional partnerships down the road that Starbucks could start to link up within the metaverse, within these kinds of integrations within Web3, that connect all the dots in terms of value operations around all sorts of retail. Further into it, says each digital collectible stamp will include a point value based on its rarity, good, and stamps can be bought or sold among members, another good one, within the marketplace, within ownership secured on the blockchain. So again, they're getting the idea here, and they definitely understand how this is going to really kind of unlock the benefits and kind of increase the experiences. I think the real killer app here will be when they get the realization to them that this can be a out of, the closed or walled garden experience that could leverage the brand into a lot of different ways. So a lot happening there, I think, in terms of where this might be going long term. And if you look at their wait list, go to there's a link within their articles out there, but you can actually get in and get on a wait list for this. It's pretty simple. You just pop your email in there and you guys are pretty much in it. Another thing that is interesting to me is when you look at the food service space, there's a couple of factors that are always at the front of that industry. And one, of course, is menu prices. Now, menu prices are typically a problem for most industries, especially in the food industry. But despite menu price increases, Starbucks reward members keep coming back. And this is where it gets interesting, because rewards are one of the catalysts of Starbucks growth and their continued movement into a large number of members. If you look at just where they are currently, this was a dive brief off of Food Dive. Active Starbucks reward memberships grew by 3.2 million members, up to 27 million. This is up 13% year over year during the company's fiscal Q3. That was in 2022 here. And then obviously Howard Schultz, who is the founder and CEO, he talked about all of this, and he knows where this is going, but it made up 53% of their US company-owned revenue. And that, to me, is exactly what I'm talking about when we start to see the digitalization of how retail is going to start to understand how to use blockchain. Further in this, it says loyalty members provide greater insights on customization and also tend to engage more with the brand. And again, this gets back to what it used to be called in the old days, 3 or 4 years ago, was CRM. And that was customer relationship management. That was the idea in which loyalty systems would be used. And there was a lot of enterprise management systems out there that were trying to move in this direction. It was really before the use case of how blockchain could be utilized to kind of connect the dots here. That, I think, that industry, CRM as we know it, will be decimated and will be replaced with potentially the integration of blockchain because of its immutable abilities and because of its unique characteristics in the way it has to have that public chain definition of being able to identify who owners of assets and also the ability to track instances within it. The problem that they will have to solve, and this gets into kind of the weeds of the tech side, is when modifications are going to have to be made. In most retail systems, modifications, errors do occur, even though I do think that some of this will change a little bit in terms of how errors actually occur. It won't be as much within the app ecosystem. What that simply means is sometimes you're like, hey, I think my rewards should be 1,000 points, but it only shows 800. Those kind of errors, I think, are going to be completely eliminated with blockchain, and it's really going to kind of change the way that some of these companies are going to be going to market. Now, the other thing that I look at is, all right, what does this mean for the potential for the future? And when you look at where the growth of the future is going, right here, Starbucks active US loyalty members grows 48% in this particular case. This was back in July of last year. So you can kind of see just how much we're talking about in terms of growth. Notice that number right there at 24.2 million. That was a 48% year over year in the previous. Now, part of this was because of the pandemic and obviously the lockdowns, those kind of things that really kind of limited the amount of in-store. It created a lot of digital enabled a lot of loyalty and rewards, which I think created a taste for the American consumers, really the global consumers, to kind of move in this direction to really participate in a lot of these rewards programs and loyalty programs. The other chains that, and you know, if it wasn't just Starbucks, then, and if it was just Starbucks, I should say, I would kind of think, well, you know, this might be a test. It might necessarily not go anywhere. Who knows really if the integration of Web3 is truly making its way into retail now. If it was just Starbucks, then I would say that would probably be the case. Let's wait and see, but it's not. The other company that's involved in this is Chipotle. Right on now, on track to hit 3.5 billion in digital sales. And another one that also tracks a ridiculous amount of loyalty members. And of course, their sales expecting to hit 3.5 billion end of the year. This is Brian Nichols stating this, their CEO. In 2021, their digital sales were 3.4 billion. And again, I don't think that's a big jump, but if you consider the differences now is that they've got a lot more people going to back into store, and that number is still growing, pretty dynamic. In-restaurant sales increased 35.9%. So that's the example where digital sales represented 39% of sales during the second quarter. Again, we're getting back to somewhat of the normalization versus what they were a year ago. And I think that's okay in the sense that, you know, we're going to see that curation there. And whether it's digital sales or in real life sales won't matter because the loyalty application applies to both. And I think that's going to be the big one that is really going to kind of break out the potential here. When you look at Chipotle right here, their rewards program has also grown over 29 million members. And obviously they're mining data every day to gain insights on how to influence behavior and boost return visits. This is exactly why blockchain works for retail and especially for, whether you look at the restaurant industry, there's other retail sectors out there that move in this direction. This to me is truly, and I've talked about this many times before, this is one of the killer apps, the real killer utilities of how blockchain can be used. Now, can Polygon be able to keep up with this, really be able to understand the addressable market that's available to here to what could happen, not only in Web3, possibly extensions into the metaverse, gaming, all sorts of things and opportunities lie in front of them right now. Some of the other things that you have to look at is like, well, all right, let's take a look at some of the hottest retail loyalty plans that are out there. And we'll look at just some of the bases here, okay? This is more than a simple tool used to increase retention. And you can kind of see the reasons obviously is mostly competition. People are creating these loyalty applications. But look at these numbers. 86% of US online adults now belong to at least one loyalty program. This came from Forrester. 55% of retailers also report that loyalty members have made a purchase in the past 3 months. So we're seeing frequency. And then paid loyalty, which is the membership clubs, things of that nature. These will not necessarily fall away from Web3 or blockchain. In fact, I think it might be even more efficient with the use of services and projects like what what's happening over at Polygon. So it's you look at the line list of who are the winners here, who are the companies that really have these massive loyalty groups that could really benefit from this. Here's Nike, 79 million engaged members right there. Then there's Ulta right there, 35.9 million. This was in their Q3. Then you go into Starbucks right there, the 26.4. They don't even list Chipotle in this group, but you've got David's Bridal. You can kind of see now you're going into Tractor Supply. And then you get into Levi's and then some of the other ones, Lowe's MVP. I mean, this really crosses, and there's Container Store. I was really surprised that they had 10 million members in there. Then, of course, let's don't even forget Amazon Prime, 172 million plus that are in the paid side of membership on a paid subscription. And then, of course, the last but not least is going to be number 10, Walmart. And Walmart, of course, right now still doing the Walmart Plus at a paid subscription. So what does that tell me when I look at all of these retailers that are trying to create something that, one, will integrate member-to-member activity, doesn't exist unless you've got a Web3 solution, a true solution that enables not only metaverse activity, possibly the use case of NFTs and scenarios like that. All of this plays in the right direction for projects like Polygon. The big question I have with Polygon will whether or not they can keep up with the number of projects that they have, really kind of plating into the potential of what Polygon could be doing. If you look at this story right here, they're planning to hire more people in the coming months, which I think right now this statement is terrible, because 200 people to be able to match up to essentially a multi-trillion-dollar retail industry just in the United States. Let's not even go into the other European countries, into Asia or South America. Just in the US alone, multi-trillion-dollar retail systems out there. The potential for this would take 1,000 developers at scale being able to integrate and work with a lot of Web 2 functions. And you've heard me talk about this. So what does that mean? It means that there's going to be a handful of other projects that are going to start perking up and starting to plug into these different kinds of tool sets within these retailers. Could it be someone like an Avalanche? Could it be someone like a Solana, or maybe even a Cardano? There's so many different opportunities here on the layer 1 side, much less the layer 2. I think the layer 2 solutions will be some of the ones that most likely will have. I think IMX would be a good one, Immutable X. Others like that have some similarities to what Polygon is trying to do. But the potential here for a lot of different crypto projects is going to get real, and it's going to get heated. So it's going to be interesting to watch how these projects kind of break it down. All right, so we do these breakdowns like this all the time, guys. Make sure to like the video, because this is one thing that really helps us out. It also lets us know if you like these deeper dives, these cross-industry analysis that look at things like what we're looking at here on Polygon and Starbucks. And if you do, of course, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe. It's really easy and it's super simple. Make sure and hit the bell, though. It is one way that you'll get some of our live streams, though this is not a live show. We do our live streams at 3 o'clock Eastern every day. Sometimes we'll be doing 1 p.m.s throughout the week. We have a lot happening this week, obviously with the ETH merge and all that good stuff happening. If you're listening at this to this show over at the podcast side of things, make sure, of course, and jump over here to the YouTube channel. This is where it all happens. Last but not least, make sure and jump into the Diamond Circle. It's the one way that we communicate with our audience, and it's also a great way for you guys to get content that we don't necessarily present here. So it's really easy and it's super free. Not a problem. Just click the link below. If you guys want to reach me, it is out there on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.